AirMech is a free-to-play game originally released in October 2012 under the name AirMech Arena. AirMech Strike left early access on the Steam store in late March 2018. Having played Arena extensively on PS3 during 2016, this version, AirMech Strike, has been greatly balanced and refined. The player operates a mech who can transform between an aerial vehicle and a land attack vehicle. There are many varieties with vastly different capacities, from the high single target DPS Warthog to the stealthy cloakable Neo to the high speed AoE bomber and the UFO which can convert enemy and neutral units. The objective of a match is to destroy the enemy base. While this seems straightforward, it isn't always as simple as it seems. This guide will show you some fairly advanced strategies which I use to great success. The player enters a match at their base. If you have entered before all other players are ready, you can move and position yourself early, saving precious seconds on your opening occupations. En route to destroying the enemy's base, there are many neutral bases with varying amounts of neutral occupants. The number and variety of neutral bases vary greatly per map. Destroying all defenders and moving 4 infantry units into the building will occupy a base. Like your home base, flying above an occupied base will heal your mech and restore the energy required to carry units and attack with your mech. Around bases are frequently spots called sockets. Sockets can be fitted with many types of units. Turrets are powerful without sockets. However, placing them on a socket increases their combat ability, and occupied sockets heal the units attached to them. The value of boosting your economic capacities cannot be undervalued, nor the utility of raiding the enemy's socketed items. However, one early mistake is to immediately focus on setting up an economy. Instead, it is more wise to set up an offensive, and then build the time-consuming economic units, while you personally support the invasion force. AirMech has an experience system. An experience is gained when your AirMech or units kill an enemy or neutral unit. Gaining a level of experience increases all statistics, including carrying capacity, and enables the player to increase a special ability specific to the AirMech class, restores a moderate amount of health, and may enable more powerful units. A match most often then consists of gaining forward bases, building a dominant army, gaining experience through causing destruction, and leading your army to destroy the enemy base. Now, I will explain the steps in finer detail. I'm going to cover both strategy, your grand plan, what you will do over the course of a map, and tactics, what you will do in individual fights. Strategy. The first rule of warfare is attack, attack, attack. Keep your units firing as frequently as possible from the safest vantage available. The second is maintain cohesion. Thus, attack does not mean to string an army into the enemy forces. Rather, the AirMech should lift, move, and order units into appropriate ranges and firing angles to make themselves effective and the enemy ineffective. Each unit, and more importantly variety of unit, such as a tank, has a particular set of weaknesses. It is usually best to have your units on a hill. However, tanks have a more difficult time firing down slopes, and units may be safe below and even able to fire upward. Another vital position is cliffs or ledges. Exploit the range of a bucky or a sniper at these points. The more speed and damage one can do, and the faster one can do it, the easier the match will be for you. Neutral enemies are a valuable source of experience points. I have witnessed intense battles over gaining the final shot to a high-value neutral target. AirMech Strike has added the ability to easily swap out layout during the battle, removing the necessity to streamline unit choice. However, most successful layouts, in my opinion, will have these elements. A long-range unit for outranging neutral bases and harassing the enemy from cliff points. A main combat vehicle. These usually contribute heavily to destroying the enemy base. A healer unit. If you really like to get in there personally, try the hero, which heals AirMechs. An AA of some sort. AA are units which only target enemy AirMechs and air units. There are some units which can serve as a mix of main combat vehicles and AA. However, a dedicated AA force can often surprise an enemy who rushes in. Of course, there are exceptions to this as well, and you may find yourself defeated by a massive rush of scout cars or hover drones which have bypassed the map completely and shown up to demolish your base. This could be prevented through scouting and being quick to make appropriate counter units, such as bombs for scout cars or AA units against hover drones. One needs to choose an economy bonus to fill their sockets with as well. I'm a fan of the Moneymaker, although another popular choice are bot spawners. Often overlooked are the shoulder pads on the main base, which have sockets for another 4 buildings. Other useful units are blade nodes, which can give a mech needed area of effect damage, bombs, which while underwhelming, can still swing a game if used in the right circumstances, heroes, which follow and heal AirMechs exclusively, or rollers and grinders, which can make quick work of even the ever-devastating Devastator. As for the Devastator, if you followed this guide, you'll frequently win long before building a Devastator is possible. However, if you are in a desperate situation, this is your ticket out. Landing 2 Devastators behind an enemy base, or at least some support units and healers with even 1 Devastator, can destroy the enemy base. The hardest part is getting your teammate to help. An optimal desperation strategy would have you leapfrogging from the nearest occupied base to a rally point near the enemy base in an attempt to surprise him. The stealthy Neo is very effective at this. Smaller but similar raids are also a great way to take poorly defended bases from the opponent, removing one of their refilling stations. The more AA you put down on a location, the harder it will be for an enemy to take. Above all, watch the radar. Tactics. These are your strategy in a small scale. There is never a time to sit still. I'm going to present you with a standard strategy. When a new match starts, begin by positioning yourself to attack the nearest base. If it has a turret, target the turret first. Select any relevant mech abilities. The Warthog's active damage bonus is very effective in the opening salvo. When the match begins, immediately begin building offensive units. These units are intended to capture the second base. There are several ways that this can be accomplished. Buckies and snipers are very powerful, cheap, and long-range units. They can fire without taking damage, and gain you terrain and experience very quickly. However, they tend to clump up and they're vulnerable to enemy mechs, especially the enemy bombers. Tanks are also suitable for this role, when they are used to bolster an AirMech's combat abilities. There is no reason not to use a mix of these units either. While the second base is being taken, it is time to grow your economy. Queue up those money makers and bot spawners while you fight. One does not need to occupy every base to win. Winning most often consists of gaining a critical mass of units, with enough firepower to destroy the enemy base. An army with the power to do so will usually have a main battle vehicle, ranging from many light tanks to 1 or 2 large tanks. Medium tanks win the majority of my matches. A successful army will also have healers. Be warned that a healer-strong strategy can be countered by enemy bomber mechs. To keep an army alive, you will usually need an anti-aircraft unit as well. AA units target mechs and flying units only, and tend to have a higher DPS output than other units. Mixing several anti-aircraft units into your army, hiding them in bushes near a combat zone, suddenly dropping several from a base which is being attacked, or setting them up between an enemy and his retreat point before engaging are a few ways to kill the more cautious and skilled AirMech pilots. And while it's of primary importance to build a main army and destroy the opponent's base, the utility of smaller skirmish groups should not be underestimated either. The same unit types you use to take your second base, whether they be buckies, snipers, or tanks, can be deployed to destroy neutral enemy targets around the map. Discovering new ways to exploit your unit's advantages, even over these neutral groups, will save you time and units and gain you experience. A swift and skilled player can deny his opponent some of that experience and gain that power for themselves. A common mistake is to squander both time and units with occupying neutral bases, particularly corner bases. Matches can be lost this way. Rather, have the main army move toward the next objective, while your AirMech moves a smaller strike force to a strategic location and conquers a base. Rendezvous when complete. Remember to keep the unit queue busy as well. Another common mistake is an overinvestment in defense, particularly defense of the home base. You cannot win a match by defending home base. At best, a small defense group will slow down economic raiding. Raiding is when an AirMech takes a little detour to destroy your eco building. The investment for the prevention of this is usually greater than the cure. If you are using your unit queue, you will generally have a defense force available to you at all times, which can be used to defend the base in all but the most dire of situations, when a few turrets wouldn't have made the difference anyway. A smart enemy can also simply fly around to the backside of your base before dropping units, making all of those defenses useless. The best defense is wherever your army is rallying. Usually this is around a recently occupied base. Whenever possible, and as long as the terrain and unit composition allow it, position an army in front of a base, near the enemy base, rather than behind the base toward your own. This will make the position more difficult to attack and to retreat from. The angles of which a unit fires can be blocked by a base, and this can be exploited to great effect. An entire army of Buckies can very quickly be killed one by one, simply by using the corner of a base. Because of difficult terrain or the location of the enemy army, it might be advisable to avoid a direct battle and simply go in for the kill. Through experience, figure out what amount of units you need to tackle the base and strike as early as possible. Do not forget to keep up production while you fight. You might need that extra little bit. If you've done enough damage with your main force before they are destroyed, you can finish off their base by dropping units and raiding afterwards. Besides speed and concentration of force, the other two main ways to get good at AirMech are to know thy enemy and know thyself. When you know which positions are advantageous to your mech and troops, and disadvantageous to your enemies, you will not face defeat. Speed, force, deception, and knowledge. This is how you play AirMech Strike. Throughout this video, you have been witnessing a major flaw in my own game. There is a way to hotkey a base, so that the units which are produced are automatically deployed from there. This can be used to automatically deploy economic units or turrets onto sockets, produce units at base, and even to order them from production into combat. Mastering this will keep your mech in the fight for longer, supporting units and dealing damage.